hello.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us today. My name is Kona. I am the Director of Communications here at Disability Rights Montana. And today I am joined by Anna. Would you like to introduce yourself, Anna?
Sure. My name is Anna. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the Executive Assistant here at DRM.
On our episode today, we wanted to continue talking about Medicaid. We had an episode where our Director of Public Policy, Krista, and myself spoke a little bit about Medicaid, just in really broad, really high level view, what Medicaid is. And today we have Anna with us, who before working at Disability Rights Montana was receiving Medicaid services. And we're going to explore some of her experiences with Medicaid in today's episode. So stay with us. Thanks again for being here, Anna, and thanks for wanting to talk about your experience being on Medicaid.
Yeah, of course.
So how long were you on Medicaid, or when were you on it about?
So I was on Medicaid for about a year as an adult. I actually was on Medicaid my entire childhood. My family, me and my siblings were all on Medicaid. I was on Medicaid for about a year as an adult, 2022 into 2023, when I was kicked off during Medicaid unwinding and was unable to get back on Medicaid due to some issues with the website that I believe most of the country was experiencing at that point.
So the Medicaid unwinding, if that's a new word to you, that was in 2003, there was a continuous enrollment provision, I believe is what it was called, and that came to an end, and it required people to reapply for Medicaid services. And so that's what you're describing. That's what happened to you.
Yes. I think I got a letter in the mail that told me that I was no longer covered with my Medicaid and that I would need to resubmit all of my materials for eligibility via their website. So I got the letter, told me to go to their website, which I did. Same website where I had originally applied for Medicaid. The website, every time I tried to access it for, I think there was 2 to 3 months where I was trying to access the website. About weekly, I would get on and see if it would work. And every time that I accessed the website, I would get an error saying that I don't remember the exact error, but I believe it was something like there's too much traffic and the website is inaccessible at the time. No matter what time of day or day of the week that I tried to access the website, that is the error that I got. And after about 3 months, I stopped checking because my doctor's office also does a sliding scale payment. So I basically switched over to that until I was hired here at DRM, where I am provided health insurance.
So maybe we can jump back to when you were kicked off Medicaid. What was that like? Like, what were your feelings right when it happened? And what were your feelings as you just described these months went on?
The initial feeling, I think, when I received that letter was a little bit of frustration because that was, having to get online, having to find all of those materials for eligibility again, having to make sure I had the pay stubs and all of the other paperwork I needed before I even got on the website. That's just a lot of work, is trying to hunt down all that paperwork. And then realizing the website was down, again, more frustration, a little bit of stress at that point, realizing that I was not covered by any kind of health insurance in that moment and would not be until I could figure out getting back that coverage, which I, as I already said, was unable to do. But I also, for the majority of my adult life, have not had access to any health insurance. Being on Medicaid was huge for me because prior to that, I had spent several years working with horses, which is a very dangerous job with no health insurance at all. So just like the peace of mind of having health insurance and knowing that if I hurt myself, especially at work where I worked with very large, unpredictable animals, that I would be able to go to the doctor and not have to worry about huge medical bills. That was a really low stress time of my life for that aspect, at least. And then kind of realizing that I no longer had that, it wasn't It wasn't a new stress much as it was a return to a previous stress that I had had for many years.
A stress that you thought you had left behind
Yes.
because you were able to get this service.
Exactly.
You were able to have health insurance. And and I think this is an important part. This came up in a conversation I had with Ed in Great Falls. I think there's a misconception that people receiving some type of government service don't want to work, or that they're working the system for something, but you're describing that's not the case. You were working and just didn't have health insurance at the time.
Yes, I had a full-time job that did not provide me with health insurance, and I was unable to afford health insurance premiums even with that full-time job.
Are there parts of healthcare or healthcare services you received while on Medicaid that you didn't have before that you were excited to have or relieved to have?
Yeah. I mean, it's something as simple as an annual checkup I couldn't afford before I had Medicaid. I think I went for 4 to 5 years without a single doctor's visit before I got on Medicaid. You know, if I was sick, I took over the counter, or I'd just go into CVS and I'd get some Sudafed and I'd get some NyQuil, and I would just take whatever meds, I could just get and hope I felt better. I was lucky enough that I had no broken bones or any emergency room visits during that time. But yeah, I mean, just having the ability to go to a doctor's office and get a flu shot, or go to a doctor's office and have them say, yeah, this is a cold and you can just take these medications, and, have the peace of mind of just knowing that it's not something else happening.
But if it is something else happening, you would then know.
Right.
But without the healthcare, without the option to have access to that professional, the medical professional, you would never know.
Yes, exactly. I would just hope that things passed quickly and that there wasn't something going on that I wasn't going to be able to figure out on my own.
So like if you weren't a doctor, say.
Yeah. So as a normal, person who had not been to medical school, I would, take a lot of vitamin C and drink some tea. And
as a side note, I don't know if many people do this. I'm sure they do, because search engines are a thing. But I don't know if you've ever Googled a symptom.
Yes.
But whenever you do, it's just you Google, put in any medical symptom, and it just comes up with and you will die.
Yes. 90% of the time, if I Google my symptoms, the two things that come up are, oh, that's super normal, you're fine, don't worry about it, or you have cancer. Those are the two things that it always tells you. Every time.
Which is terrible.
Yes.
We do not advocate for Google Medical School.
Yeah, Google is for sure not a substitute for a medical degree.
Which maybe that's the best plug for Medicaid, period. Google is not a substitute for a medical degree. If you're a doctor and you agree with that, let us know. I had to stop Googling things. There was a while where I just was like, oh, well, I just want to know. I want to be educated and know what's going on with my body. And I would Google certain things and I'd be like, I just can't read this. I enjoy having a little bit of a filter with that interface with the professional that knows, this is what it is. You don't.
Yes.
So, so if you are ineligible for Medicaid and you need health insurance for a medical reason, finding a job that provides health insurance is a big deal. And it sounds like that was the case for you.
Yeah, that was huge for me. When I was job searching, when I ended up applying for and then getting hired here, that was one of the main things I was looking for, was that every place that I applied to, I wanted to make sure that I was going to have an option for employer-provided health insurance, because I could not afford to pay for private health insurance not provided by the employer.
And do you personally then, do you fit in that category that without the health insurance, that life is harder, and with health insurance, you are able to get a piece of healthcare that you needed? Is that?
Yes. one of the main things that I wanted health insurance for is mental health care. So being able to see a psychiatrist. Yeah, so the mental health care aspect was really big for me.
Are there other parts of preventative health that you think are important for people to know you have access to when you do have health insurance?
Yeah. I think a big one for me was kind of having access to vaccines. I was able to get the HPV vaccine while I was on Medicaid, which I would not have had access to otherwise. If you don't know what the HPV vaccine is, it is a measure to prevent cervical cancer. So that was really cool for me to be able to have access to that. I very strongly believe that preventative healthcare is extremely important. I have family history of very many kinds of things that are relatively easy to treat if caught early enough using preventative healthcare.
Thanks for listening to the Disability Rights Montana podcast. If you would like to learn more about Medicaid in general, go ahead and listen to this episode that our public policy director, Krista, and myself did, talking about Medicaid and how it generally works here in the state of Montana. And if you yourself have a story about Medicaid, about the Medicaid unwinding, about your relationship with healthcare and your health once you received Medicaid, we want to hear about it. We would like to have more people tell their stories about Medicaid and the benefits of having access to healthcare. You can reach our office by calling 406-449-2344, or you can email us at communications@disabilityrightsmt.org. Thanks for listening, and we will catch you on the next one. Thanks, Anna.
Yeah.